Do not let your hearts be troubled. These are the opening words of today's gospel, where Jesus is talking to his disciples about what is going to happen. They're beginning to feel some of the uneasiness. They're beginning to feel some of the anxiety, as Jesus has been predicting that he would be handed over to his enemies, that he would suffer greatly, that he would be crucified. And naturally, their hearts are troubled. But Jesus says, do not let your hearts be troubled. I think it's very easy to apply Jesus' words to us today. There's many of us who are very uneasy, who are very anxious about the present day, about the future, about getting back to normal, about what that will all look like. And so Jesus says to each and every one of us, do not let your hearts be troubled. Jesus says, you have faith in God. You have faith in my Father. Have faith also in me. Jesus promises us that everything will be okay. Yes, we may have to suffer. Yes, life will not always be easy. But in the end, everything will be okay. For those of us who have faith in him, for those of us who trust in him, for those of us who keep our eyes fixed on him. But what are the things that our hearts are troubled about? Certainly the things that you are all aware about, things that I've been talking about the last couple of weeks, things that our government leaders have been talking about. But there are also the everyday things that trouble us. All the things that have been rearranged in our life. Those things that have been canceled or postponed. First communions, weddings, baptisms, celebrations here in our parish, in your own families. And now even today, Mother's Day cannot be celebrated as we normally celebrate. We cannot go out with our mothers or our grandmothers into nice restaurants to have a wonderful brunch or lunch or dinner, whatever it is our family tradition may be. Some of us may not even be able to see our mothers, our grandmothers, our godmothers, whatever it may be. And our hearts are naturally troubled about that. And it gives us a great opportunity, I think, to reflect upon what motherhood is really all about. How many times have we heard people say, and rightfully so, that every day is Mother's Day because of how important each of our mothers is to us. And throughout this entire month of May, we honor our Blessed Mother. And it gives us a great opportunity, I think and to honor and to remember all forms of motherhood, whether it be our own biological mothers, whether it be our spiritual motherhood from our Blessed Mother, remembering what Jesus said on the cross when he looked at St. John, his beloved disciple, and said, behold your mother, and to Mary, behold your son. It was that moment that Jesus gave Mary, not only to John, but to each of us, to the entire church, to be our spiritual mother. But my friends, we all know that the role of mother has a very strong impact on all of our lives. Now, normally at Mother's Day Mass, we would invite all mothers to stand for a special blessing. But it also, I think, gives us an opportunity to reflect upon not only this role of mother, but all of the different forms that takes on. Certainly being a biological mother, certainly being a spiritual mother. But let us also remember our grandmothers. Let us remember godmothers. Let us remember all of those women who take on different forms of motherhood and different roles in their life. Maybe there are different circumstances in which they are asked to raise children that are not biologically their own. Let us think also of those women who have lost children, maybe through a miscarriage, maybe through their child dying unexpectedly. Certainly, I can't think of anything else more difficult than a mother having to bury her own child. And so our hearts and our prayers go out in a special way to those mothers. Let us also remember all of those women who want to be mothers, who cannot conceive, or maybe there's another reason in their life where they're not able to have children of their own. My friends, we can think of all sorts of circumstances in which there are women who are mothers, who want to be mothers, who have been mothers. And so let us not forget any woman this day, because all of them share in a certain gift that God has given to them as women, the gift to be able to be a mother. We think of Mary, the great example, the perfect example of what it means to be a mother. She only had one child, our Lord Jesus Christ. We know that Mary watched her son suffer, watched her son crucified and buried. We know that the prediction of Simeon, many years before the crucifixion, would be fulfilled when he promised Mary that a sword of sorrow would pierce her immaculate heart. I'm sure at the time she did not know what that meant. But Mary would experience that great sorrow, that great suffering, when she laid her own son in the tomb. But that great sorrow, that great pain, would soon be overcome with the great joy of being reunited with her son on Easter Sunday morning. You know, the Gospels recount all sorts of examples of the resurrection. Jesus appearing to Mary Magdalene, Jesus appearing to his apostles and St. Thomas in the upper room, Jesus appearing to the disciples on the road to Emmaus, Jesus meeting them on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, having breakfast with them, eating fish and bread with them. But nowhere in the Gospel do we hear of Jesus' encounter after his resurrection with our Blessed Mother. It almost seems obvious, almost seems unnecessary to write about, that the very first person that he would have appeared to would have been Mary. It's not in the Gospels anywhere, but I think it just makes perfect sense that she, who bore God's own Son in her immaculate womb, would be the first to truly experience the resurrection. So Mary, my friends, gives us a great insight into what motherhood is all about, both the joys, the sorrows, and those great moments of unbelievable joy. My friends, on this Mother's Day, when we are unable to celebrate with our mothers the way we normally would, let us take this as a great opportunity to thank God for our own biological mothers, grandmothers, godmothers, our Blessed Mother Mary, but let us not forget all of those women in our lives, those women who share in a motherhood that goes beyond being a biological mother. My prayer for all mothers and all women today is that God might fill your hearts with tremendous joy, that God may allow you to experience the joy that Mary experienced when she saw her son risen from the dead. My friends, this is why Jesus says to his disciples and to each of us in the midst of this crisis, do not let your hearts be troubled. We have faith in God. Let us also have faith in Jesus Christ. Let us turn to our Blessed Mother Mary, because she leads us, all of us, to her Son. God bless you, and happy Mother's Day.